Okay, I've got this long soundtrack here that has a lot of different background noises, wind effects, and things like that. And I'm going to work on this first section here, which has some wind in the background and a BBC News reporter just reporting the news.
Boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profit.
And you can hear quite well, but we can still reduce that noise by a certain degree. Now I'm going to take this section here and expand it so that's all there is on the screen. Now, when you listen to the first section, you're going to hear that in this section, there is just some background noise, and we use that as our sampler to eliminate other noise through here. And I'll show you several different ways of doing it. I'm going to highlight the entire thing and use the equalizer just to change some of the frequencies. We go down to here to filter and EQ and use the graphic equalizer, just the 10 bands to keep it simple. And we're going to start with default. Now I'm going to play the soundtrack and then just move the equalizer toggles up and down a little bit. These are the higher frequency and those are the lower frequency. And I'll have the soundtrack running as I do that. You can hear the differences that it does.
And boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million on Thursday, a fall of 13% from the same period in 2012. New Chief Executive Gavin Patterson said that the sport offering had made a confident start. BT.
Now you can hear that to some degree. I have isolated the voice there. I'm going to bring this back and just play a little bit more with the toggles so you can hear what it does. And then I will close it and it will revert back to where it was before I applied the equalizer.
BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million on Thursday, a fall of 13% from the same period in 2012. New Chief Executive Gavin Patterson said that the sport offering had made a confident start. BT has a £738 million 3-year deal to show 38.
So that is just using the equalizer, which we will use with other applications. Now I want you to notice at this first part here is where there is just noise, and then you can see visually the other areas where you hear the voice, and then there's other areas of just noise, and we can use those as sampling areas. So I'm first going to sample, well, first I'm going to use adaptive noise reduction, which will use this section at the beginning to sample the noise on its own, and then it reduce it to some degree through the rest of this soundtrack here. Okay, so we go up to effects. We'll go down to noise reduction, restoration, down to adaptive noise reduction. Now, I'm just going to put it on default. And we can play around with these just a little bit so you can see how they work. The first thing I'm going to do is just bump up slightly the broadband preservation. And then I'm going to apply it. And then I will undo what I've done and do a slightly different series of settings in here. And you can see that it has reduced the sound quite a lot. Now the noise visually will still be here to some degree because this is where the program actually sampled it, and then it eliminated a lot of the sound through here.
Boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million on Thursday.
Okay, now I'm going to undo it. And change the settings somewhat. I'm going to reduce the broadband preservation, but I just want to increase the noise, reduce noise by, and this is the amount of decibels and the noisiness. And you'll see that we have quite a much larger amount of reduction of sound here. See, it's eliminated quite a lot more.
Boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million.
And we will undo that and use a different, more selective tool for sound reduction. What I'm going to do is just select this band of noise right here. You can see there's no voice in there. And I go into effects, and again go down to noise reduction. Now here I can use the key shortcut. So from now on I'll just use Shift P, and that will capture that little bit of noise print right there. Okay. And then we select the rest of it and we will apply it. And that is normally Command Shift P. I'm going to go to default. And I'm just going to apply this, and you'll see it won't change too much. And then I'm going to start changing around these settings right here. Now what this is the amount of decibels that you'll change it. And what we have here, at this end is the lower register, and this is the higher frequencies, and we can actually fine-tune how much we take out of each. So I'm just going to apply this as is, and you'll hear the difference there. And there is some sound reduction.
Boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million.
Now I'm going to undo it. And resample it again. And then I'm going to bump up the lower registers and eliminate those. And you can see the threshold rises as we do this. And the threshold is the level of sound that you're going to reduce. And I'm going to reduce a little bit the upper register. Sorry, I'll undo that. We have to select the entire amount and then apply it. And you can see a lot of the lower register here has disappeared, and it creates a strange kind of echo through there.
Boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million on Thursday, a fall of 13%.
Now let's undo that. And we'll open this page again. And in this time we're going to sort of reverse what we've eliminated. So now we're going to reduce the upper register more, but because there is not a lot of upper register in here, we won't really eliminate that much.
And boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of...
I'll just undo it. And I'm going to select a smaller bit here because this has a little bit of wind in it right there. And I'll show you one other way that you can sample it. We could actually open the, as you see here, the noise reduction process. And this pops up, and we'll set this to default again. And then we'll capture a noise print. You see this noise print is a little bit different because it actually has a spike of low-level sound in there. So we select all of it, and we can just apply it at the default setting. And you'll see it's reduced a fair amount of sound in there.
And boost BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre...
We will undo that. And then reapply the settings, however, doing it with the noise reduction, the amount of decibels we'll choose to do it with. And you can see the threshold level rises as we increase the decibels.
Pre-tax profits of £948 million on Thursday, a fall of 13%
And
from
then
the...
we'll undo that again. And bring up the noise reduction process. This time we'll actually raise the thresholds again. And keep the noise reduction quite high. And apply it. And you'll see a lot more sound has disappeared, and it's strangely distorted the sounds that are in there.
BT revenues. BT reported 6-month pre-tax profits of £948 million.
And we will undo that. So as you can see, this is really a matter of fine-tuning all of the different parameters of the noise reduction. So I've shown you 3 here, which is the filter, graphic equalizers, and that's really working individually with the different frequencies, but it doesn't really distinguish between noise or not. The noise reduction, the adaptive noise reduction, which is the program itself does it based on its own sampling, and the noise reduction process where you capture the noise print. We're going to go down to the end of the soundtrack and work with just a small section of music in here that has a loud electronic hum behind it, and try to eliminate a little bit of the background noise. So first of all, we need to expand it, so we just take that bit. And I'm going to jump you ahead just so you can listen to the difference. This part here doesn't have a hum, so you can kind of listen through and see how the hum stops. Now, you'll hear in this first part here that it first has a little bit of hum, and then the music kicks in, and we will use this section of hum as our sampling to eliminate some sound. And you can hear when the music kicks in there. So what we'll do first, so we will highlight the piece that we want to work with, which is the entire music section here. And we'll go to Effects, and we'll first go to Adaptive Noise Reduction. And of course, Adaptive Noise Reduction will sample just a little bit of the noise at the beginning and then use that as a template to eliminate further noise. And we could start with default, except what I would like to do is just turn up the broadband preservation and a little bit of reduced noise by, and then apply it. And you'll see that it reduces quite a lot of the noise. Right at the beginning, you can see this part, which has been, you can still see has quite a bit of sound in it. This part is what the program uses as a sampling. Now, you'll notice that quite a lot of the sound has disappeared. We can move this ahead a little bit. And you can hear in this section right here that there's still a lot of noise and it disappears because the program has resampled some of the sound right there. Now I'm going to undo this. And we're going to go back to Noise Reduction, Adaptive, and change some of the settings here. We're going to increase the decibel reduction and a little bit of the noisiness. Keep that up a little bit and apply it. And you'll see that it eliminates quite a lot more of the sound. And this last section here is actually where there was only a hum and there wasn't actually any music. Okay, let's undo that. And now I'm going to use a different filter. So what we'll first do is highlight just a small section of it. And this is the part that is just hum before the music starts. So we go to Effects, and we capture Noise Print, or you can see it's just Shift P. And it captures that. And then what we would like to do is remove the sound from the rest of it, or whatever sound it does. Now, we'll do Shift Command P, and it brings up this sample graph here. And primarily we will work with the threshold and the noise reduction. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bump the noise reduction up quite a lot, and you'll hear what comes back has somewhat of a reverb to it, and then we will just play around a little bit with this noise reduction and see how we can affect the sound. So I'm going to bump it up quite a lot now. And then apply it. And you'll see it's eliminated most of the sound. So we don't like that, so we'll just undo it. And we can take that same sound sampling and we'll just go to default, set it up again. And we'll use this timeline, this graph here. And you can see the green there is the threshold, and we haven't really changed the threshold that much. You can change it through this. And the more you push the threshold up, the more noise you eliminate. But as you eliminate that noise, you also eliminate a fair bit of the music itself. So we'll apply this here, and you can see it's reduced to some amount. At the beginning. So you want to find a balance between total noise reduction and the minimal amount. So we'll try once more, and we'll bump up the noise reduction to a certain degree. And you can see up top here, the bandwidth threshold moves up just slightly, and the amount. It's still not how we'd like it though. So I'm going to change my tactic a little bit, and I'm going to use this as a sample for noise reduction. So again, I just press Shift P, and it samples this amount here. And then I drag this along, and I'll apply it to this entire section right here. So it's Command Shift P. And we'll just go with default and see what happens with that. And you'll see that this the bar has lowered a little bit, which will not reduce much sound in this area right here. So the lower these are, the less sound you reduce it by. So we'll just apply it, and then I'll redo it again. There's what it sounds like. We'll undo that, and we'll reapply it, and we'll bump up the noise reduction here. Now we'll listen once more, and you'll see that we've reduced some of it, but because the hum and the music were so combined together, it's difficult to remove all of that. But you might have noticed that it's the upper bands up here, the higher frequencies, that is where the noise kind of resides. So we can go back to one of our old tricks here, and I've got this, the size is 99 and the opacity at this moment is 20. I'll bump it up to 50, use the paintbrush to eliminate some of it. And we'll eliminate some of the sound here because that's all, that's just noise there. Then I'm going to make the brush a little bit smaller and knock the opacity down. and fine tune it just a little bit here. And we could probably erase some of this because that's just noise. Okay, let's see if we made it any better. Now, you still have some background sound, but we've managed to blend it in there a little bit more. And like I said, this would have been a very difficult one to actually remove the sound from because the hum and the music blended in quite well together.